Yeah, Drishti, I think we can start. Drishti.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Um, so if I'm not wrong, yesterday we left at page 51. So I'll start from there. The golden circle. Okay.
Yeah,
Regardless of what it does, we know why Apple exists. The same cannot be said for other competitors. Although they all had a clear sense of why at some point, it was one of the primary factors that helped each of them become billion-dollar companies. Over the course of time, all of Apple's competitors lost their why. Now, all those companies define themselves by what they do. We make computers. They turned from companies with a cause into companies that sold products. And when that happens, price, quality, service, and features become their primary currency to motivate a purchase decision. At that point, a company and its products have ostensibly become commodities. As any company forced to compete on price, quality, service, or features alone can attest, it is very hard to differentiate for any period of time or build loyalty on those factors alone. Plus, it costs money and is stressful waking up every day trying to compete on that level alone. Knowing why is essential for lasting success and the ability to avoid being lumped in with others. Any company faced with the challenge of how to differentiate themselves in their market is basically a commodity. Regardless of what they do or how they do it, ask a milk producer, for example, and they will tell you that there are actually variations among milk brands. The problem is you have to be an expert to understand the differences. To the outside world, all milk is basically the same. So we just lump all those brands together and call it a commodity. In response, that's how the industry acts. This is largely the pattern for almost every other product or service on the market today. Business to consumer or business to business. They focus on what they do and how they do it, without consideration of why. Start with why. We lump them together and they act like commodities. The more we treat them like commodities, the more they focus on what and how they do it. It's a vicious cycle. But only companies that act like commodities are the ones who wake up every day with the challenge of how to differentiate. Companies and organizations with a clear sense of why never worry about it. They don't think of themselves as being like anyone else, and they don't have to convince anyone of their value. They don't need complex systems of carrots and sticks. They are different, and everyone knows it. They start with why in everything they say and do. There are those who still believe that Apple's difference comes from its marketing ability. Apple sells a lifestyle. Marketing professionals will tell you. Then how come these marketing professionals haven't intentionally repeated Apple's success and longevity for another company? Calling it a lifestyle is a recognition that people who live a certain way choose to incorporate Apple into their lives. Apple didn't invent the lifestyle, nor does it sell a lifestyle. Apple is simply one of the brands that those who live a certain lifestyle are drawn to. Those people use certain products or brands in the course of living in that lifestyle. That is, in part, how we recognize the way of life in the first place. The products they choose become proof of why they do the things they do. It is it is only because Apple's why is so clear that those who believe what they believe are drawn to them. As Davidson fits into the lifestyle of a certain group of people, and Prada shoes fit the lifestyle of another group, it is the lifestyle that comes first. Like the products the company produces that serve as proof of the company's why. So too, so too does a brand or product serve as proof of an individual's why. Others, even some who work for Apple, will say that what truly distinguishes Apple is in fact the quality of their products alone. Having good quality products is of course important, No matter how clear your why, if what you sell doesn't work, the whole thing falls flat. But a company doesn't need to have the best products, they just need to be good or very good. Better or best is a relative comparison. Without first understanding why, the comparison is of no value to the decision maker. The concept of better begs the question based on what standard? Is a Ferrari F430 sports car better than a Honda Odyssey in minivan? It depends on why you need the car. If you have a family of six, a two-seater Ferrari is not better. However, if you're looking for a great way to meet women, a Honda minivan is probably not better, depending on what kind of woman you're looking to meet, I guess. I too shouldn't make assumptions. Why the product exists must first be considered, and why someone wants it must match. I could tell you about all the engineering marvels of the Honda Odyssey, some of which may actually be better than a Ferrari. It certainly gets better gas mileage. The odds are that I'm not going to convince someone who really wants that sports car to buy anything else. That some people are viscerally drawn to a Ferrari more than a Honda Odyssey says more about a person than the engineering of the product. The engineering, for example, would simply be one of the tangible points that a Ferrari lover could point out to prove how he feels about the car. The Dodge defense of the superiority of the Ferrari from the person whose personality is predisposed to favor all the features and benefits of a Ferrari cannot be an objective conversation. Why do you think most people who buy Ferraris are willing to pay a premium to get it in red, whereas most who buy Honda Odysseys probably don't care much about the color at all? For all those who for all those who will try to convince you that Apple computers are just better, I cannot dispute a single claim. All I can offer is that most of the factors that they believe make them better meet the standard of what a computer should do. With that in mind, Macintoshes are, in practice, only better for people who believe what Apple believes. Those people who share Apple's why believe that products are objectively better, and any attempt to convince them otherwise is pointless. Even with objective metrics in hand, the argument is about which is better or which is worse, without first establishing a common standard, creates nothing more than debate. Loyalists for each brand will point to various features and benefits that matter to them or matter to them in an attempt to convince the other that they are right. And that's one of the primary reasons why so many companies feel the need to differentiate in the first place, based on the flawed assumption that only one group can be right. But what if both parties were right? What if an apple was right for some people and a PC was right for others? It's not a debate about better or worse anymore. It's a discussion about different needs. And before the discussion can even happen, the whys for each must be established first. A simple claim of better can, even without the rational evidence to back it up, can create desire and even motivate a decision to buy. But it doesn't create loyalty. If a customer feels inspired to buy a product rather than manipulated, they will be able to verbalize the reasons why they think what they bought is better. Good quality and features matter, but they're not enough to produce the Dodge loyalty that all the most inspiring leaders and companies are able to command. It is the cause that is represented by the company, brand, product, or the person that inspires loyalty. Not the only way, just one way. Knowing your why is not the only way to be successful, but it is the only way to maintain a lasting success and have a greater blend of innovation and flexibility. When a why goes fuzzy, it becomes much more difficult to maintain the growth, loyalty, and inspiration that helped drive the original success. By difficult, I mean that manipulation rather than inspiration becomes the strategy of choice to motivate behavior. Sorry. This is effective in the short term, but comes at a high cost in the long term. Consider the classic business school case of the railroads. In the late 1800s, the railroads were the biggest companies in the country, having achieved such monumental success, even changing the landscape of America. Remembering why stopped being important to them. Instead, They became obsessed with what they did. They were in the railroad business. This narrowing of perspective influenced their decision making. They invested all their money in tracks and crosses and engines. But at the beginning of the 20th century, a new technology was introduced, the airplane. And all those big railroad companies eventually went out of business. What if they had defined themselves as being in the mass transportation business? Perhaps their behavior would have been different. Perhaps they would have seen opportunities that they otherwise missed. Perhaps they would own all the airlines today. The comparison raises the question of the long term survivability of so many other companies that have defined themselves and their industries by what they do. They have been doing it the same way for so long that the ability to compete against a new technology or see a new perspective becomes a daunting task. The story of the railroads has eerie similarities to the case of the music industry discussed earlier. This is another industry that has not done a good job of adjusting its business model to fit a behavioral change prompted by new technology. But other industries whose business models evolved in a different time show similar cracks. The newspaper, publishing, and television industries, to name but three, these are the current day railroads that are struggling to define their value while watching their customers turn to companies from other industries to serve their needs. Perhaps if I'm so sorry. Perhaps if music companies had a clearer sense of why, they would have seen the opportunity to invent the equivalent of iTunes instead of leaving it to a scrappy computer company. In all cases, going back to the original purpose, cause, or belief will help these industries adapt. Instead of asking, what should we do to compete? The question must be asked, why did we start doing what we were doing in the first place? And what can we do to bring our cause to life considering all the technologies and market opportunities available today? But don't take my word for it. None of this is my opinion. It is all firmly grounded in the tenets of biology. This is not opinion, this is biology. Now, the star belly sneetches had bellies with stars. The plain belly sneetches had none upon theirs. Those stars weren't so big, they were really so small, you might think such a thing wouldn't matter at all. Then quickly, Sylvester McMonkey McBean put together a very peculiar machine. And he said, you want stars like a star belly sneetch? My friends, you can have them all for $3 each. In his 1961 story about sneetches, Dr. Seuss introduced us to a group of sneetches, one with stars on their bellies and the others with none. The ones without stars wanted desperately to get stars so they could feel like they fit in. They were willing to go to extreme lengths and pay larger and larger sums of money simply to feel like they were part of a group. But only Sylvester McMonkey McBean, the man whose machines put the stars upon theirs, profited from the Sneetch's desires to fit in. As with as with so many things, Dr. Seuss explained it best. The Sneetches perfectly capture a very basic human need, the need to belong. Our need to belong is not rational, but it is a constant that exists across all people in all cultures. It is a feeling we get when those around us share our values and beliefs. When we feel like we belong, we feel connected and we feel safe. As humans, we crave the feeling and we seek it out. Sometimes our feeling of belonging is incidental. We're not friends with everyone from our hometown, but travel across the state. And you may meet someone from your hometown and you instantly have a connection with them. We're not friends with everyone from our home state, but travel across the country and you'll feel a special bond with someone you met who is from your home state. Go abroad and you'll form instant bonds with other Americans you meet. I remember a trip I took to Australia one day. One day I was on a bus and heard an American accent. I turned and struck up a conversation. I immediately felt connected to them. We could speak the same language, understand the same slang. As a stranger in a strange city, for that brief moment, I felt like I belonged. And because of it, I trusted those strangers on the bus more than any other passengers. In fact, We spend time together later. No matter where we go, we trust those with whom we are able to perceive common values or beliefs. A desire to feel like we belong is so powerful that we will go to great lengths, do irrational things, and often spend money to get that feeling. Like the Sneetches, we want to be around people and organizations who are like us and share our beliefs. When companies talk about what they do and how advanced their products are, they may have appeal, but they do not necessarily represent something to which we want to belong. But when a company clearly communicates their why, what they believe and what we believe, what they believe, then we will sometimes go to extraordinary lengths to include those products or brands in our lives. This is not because they're better, but because they become markers or symbols of the values and beliefs we hold dear. Those products and brands make us feel like we belong and we feel a kinship with others who buy the same things. Fan clubs started by customers are often formed without any help from the company itself. These people form communities, in person or online, not just to share their love of a product with others, but to be in a company of people like them. Their decision, their decisions have nothing to do with the company or its products. They have everything to do with the individuals themselves. Our natural need to belong also makes us good at spotting things that don't belong. In a sense we get. It's a sense we get, sorry. A feeling. Something deep inside us, something we can't put into words. Allows us to feel how some things just fit and some things just don't. Dell selling MP3 players just doesn't feel right because Dell defines itself as a computer company. So the only things that belong are computers. Apple defines itself as a company on a mission, and so anything they do fits that definition, feels feels like it belongs. In 2004, they produced a promotional iPod in partnership with the iconoclastic Irish rock band U2. That makes sense. They would never have produced a promotional iPod with Celine Dion, even though she's sold vastly more than U2 and may have a bigger audience. U2 and Apple belong together because they share the same values and beliefs. They both push boundaries. It would not have made sense if Apple released a special iPod with Celine Dion, as big as her audience may be. The partnership just doesn't align. Look no further than Apple's TV commercials. I'm a Mac and I'm a PC, for a perfect representation of who a Mac user needs to be to feel like they belong. In the commercial, the Mac user is a young guy, always in jeans and a t shirt, always relaxed and always having a sense of humor, poking fun at the system. The PC, as defined by Apple, is in a suit, older, stodgy. To fit in with Mac, you have to be like Mac. Microsoft responded to Apple's with its own I'm a PC campaign, which depicts people from all walks of life identifying themselves as PC. Microsoft included many more people in the ads teachers, scientists, musicians, and children. As one would expect from the computer that supplies 95% of computer operating systems to belong to that crowd, you have to be everyone else. One is not better or worse. It depends on where you feel like you belong. Are you a rabble rouser or are you with the majority? We are drawn to leaders and organizations that are good at communicating what they believe. The ability to make us feel like we belong, they make us feel special, safe, and not alone is part of what gives them ability to inspire us. Those whom we consider great leaders all have an ability to draw us close and to command our loyalty. And we feel a strong bond with those who are also drawn to the same leaders and organizations. Apple users feel a bond with each other. Harley riders are bonded to each other. Anyone who was drawn to hear Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s give his I Have a Dream speech, regardless of race, religion, or sex, stood together in the crowd as brothers and sisters, bonded by their shared values and beliefs. They knew they belonged together because they could feel it in their gut. Gut decisions don't happen in your stomach. The principles of the golden circle are much more than a communications hierarchy. Its principles are deeply grounded in the evolution of human behavior. Sorry. The power of why is not an opinion, it's biology. If you look at a cross section of a human brain from top down, you see that the levels of the golden circle correspond precisely with the three major levels of the brain. The newest area of the brain, our Homo sapien brain, is the neocortex, which corresponds with the what level. The neocortex is responsible for our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections comprise the limbic brain, sorry. The limbic brain is responsible for all our feelings, such as trust and loyalty. It is also responsible for all human behavior and all our decision making, but it has no capacity for language. When we communicate from the outside in, I'm so sorry. When we communicate what we do first, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information, like facts and features, but it does not drive behavior. But when we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls decision making, and our language part of the brain allows us to rationalize those decisions. The part of the brain that controls our feelings has no capacity for language. It is this disconnection that makes putting our feelings into the world so hard. We have trouble, for example, explaining why we marry the person we marry. We struggle to put it into words, the real reasons why we love them. So we talk around it or rationalize it. She's funny, she's smart, we start. But there are lots of funny and smart people in the world, but we don't love them and we don't want to marry them. There's an obvious more to falling in love than just personality and competence. Rationally, we know our explanation isn't the real reason. It is how our loved ones make us feel. But those feelings are really hard to put in words. So when pushed, we start talking around it. We may even say things that don't make any rational sense. She completes me, we might say. For example, what does what does that mean and how do you look for someone who does that so you can marry them? That's the problem with love. We only know when we found it because it feels just right. The same is true for other decisions. When a decision feels right, we have a hard time explaining why we did what we did. Again, the part of the brain that controls decision making doesn't control language, so we rationalize. This complicates the value of polls or market research. Asking people why they chose you over another may provide wonderful evidence of how they have rationalized the decision, but it does not shed much light on the true motivation for the decision. It is not that people don't know, is that they have trouble explaining why do they do what they do. Decision making and the ability to explain these decisions exist in different parts of the brain. This is where gut decisions come from. They feel just right. There's no part of the stomach that controls decision making. It all happens in the limbic brain. It's not an accident that we use that word feel to explain those decisions either. The reason gut decisions feel right is because the part of the brain that controls them also controls our feelings. Whether you defer to your gut or you're simply following your heart, no matter which part of your body you think is driving the decision, the reality is it's all in your limbic brain. Our limbic brain is powerful enough to drive behavior that sometimes contradicts our rational and analytical understanding of a situation. We often trust our gut even if the decision flies in the face of all the facts and figures. Richard Restak, a well known neuroscientist, talks about this in his book, The Naked Brain. When you force people to make decisions with only the rational part of their brain, they almost invariably end up overthinking. These rational decisions tend to take longer to make, says Restak, and can often be of lower quality. In contrast, decision made with the limbic brain, gut decisions, tend to be faster, higher quality decisions. This is one of the primary reasons why teachers tell students to go with their first instinct when taking a multiple choice test, to trust their gut. The more time spent thinking about the answer, the bigger the risk that it may be the wrong one. Our limbic brains are smart and often know the right thing to do. It is our inability to verbalize the reasons that may cause us to doubt ourselves or trust the empirical evidence when our gut tells us not to. Consider the experience of buying a flat screen TV at your local electronics store. You stand in the aisle listening to an expert explain to you the difference between LCD and plasma. The sales rep gives you all the rational differences and benefits, yet you are still none the wiser as to which one is best for you. After an hour, you still have no clue. Your mind is on an overload because you're overthinking the decision. You eventually make a choice and walk out of the store, still not 100% convinced you chose the right one. Then you go to your friend's house and see that he bought the other one. He goes on and on about how much he loves his TV. Suddenly, you're jealous, even though you still don't know that his is any better than yours. You wonder, did I buy the wrong one? Companies that fail to communicate a sense of why force us to make decisions with only empirical evidence. This is why those decisions take more time, feel difficult, or leave us uncertain. Under those conditions, manipulative strategies that exploit our desires, fears, doubts, or fantasies work very well. We're forced to make these less than inspiring decisions for one simple reason. Companies don't offer us anything else besides the facts and figures, features, and benefits upon which to base our decisions. Companies don't tell us why. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. A failure to communicate why creates nothing but stress or doubt. In contrast, many people who are drawn to buy Macintosh computers or Harley Davidson motorcycles, for example, don't need to talk to anyone about which brand to choose. They feel the utmost confidence in their decision, and the only question they ask is which Mac or which Harley. At that level, the rational features and benefits, facts and figures absolutely matter, but not to drive the decision, to give money or loyalty to the company or brand. That decision is already made. The tangible features are simply to help direct the choice of product that best fits our needs. In these cases, the decisions happened in the perfect inside out order. Those decisions started with why, the emotional component of the brain, and then the rational components allow the buyer to verbalize or rationalize the reasons for their decision. This is what we mean when we talk about winning hearts and minds. The heart represents the limbic, feeling part of the brain, and the mind is the rational language center. Most companies are quite adept at winning minds. All that requires is a comparison of all the features and benefits. Winning hearts, however, takes more work. Given the evidence of the natural order of decision making, I can't help but wonder if the order of the expression hearts and minds is a coincidence. Why does no one set out to win minds and hearts? The ability to win hearts before minds is not easy. It's a delicate balance of art and science, another coincidental grammatical construction. Why is it that things are not a balance of science and art, but always art before science? Perhaps it is a subtle clue. Uh, uh, it is a subtle clue our language inspired limbic brain is sending us to help us see that the art of leading is about what following your heart is about following your heart. Sorry. Perhaps our brains are trying to tell us that why must come first. Absent a why, a decision is harder to make. And when in doubt, we look to science, to data, to guide decisions. Companies will tell you that the reason they start with what they do or how they do is it is because that's what their customers ask for. Quality, service, price, features. That's what the data reported. But for the fact that the part of the brain that controls decision making is different from the part of the brain that is able to report back that decision, it would be a perfectly valid conclusion to give people what they ask for. Unfortunately, there is more evidence that sales don't significantly increase and bonds of loyalty are not formed simply when companies say or do everything their customers want. Henry Ford summed it up the best. If I had asked people what they wanted, he said, they would have said a faster horse. This is the genius of leadership. Great leaders and great organizations are good at seeing what most of us can't see. They are good at giving us things we would never think of asking for. When the computer revolution was afoot, computer users couldn't ask for a graphical user interface. But that's what Apple gave us. In the face of expanding competition in the airline industry, most air travelers would never have thought to ask for less instead of more. Sorry. But that's what the Southwest did. And in the face of hard times and overwhelming odds, few would have asked the country, "What can I do for you over what can you do for me?" The very cause upon which John F. Kennedy introduced his presidency. Great leaders are those who trust their gut. They are those who understand the art before science. They win hearts before minds. They are the ones who start with why. They make decisions all day long, and many of them are emotionally driven. Rarely do we sift through all the available information to ensure we know every fact, and we don't need to. It is all about degrees of certainty. I can make a decision with 30% of the information, said former Secretary of State Colin Powell. Anything more than 80% is too much. There's always a level at which we trust ourselves or those around us to guide us, and don't always feel we need all the facts and figures. And sometimes we just may not trust ourselves to make a certain decision yet. This may explain why we feel, that's the word again, so uncomfortable when others twist our arm to make a decision that does not sit well in our gut. We trust our gut to help us decide whom to vote for or which shampoo to buy because our biology complicates our ability to verbalize the real reasons why we can't make the decisions we do. We rationalize based on more tangible factors, like the design or the service or the brand. This is the basis for the false assumption that price or features matters more than they do. Those things matter. They provide us the tangible things we can point to rationalize our decision making. But they don't set the course and they don't inspire behavior. It's what you can't see that matters. Get your whites whiter and your brights brighter, said the TV commercial for the newest laundry detergent. This was this was the value proposition for so many years in the detergent business. A perfectly legitimate claim. That is what the market research revealed customers wanted. The data was true, but the truth of what people wanted was different. The markets of laundry detergent asked consumers what they wanted from detergent, and consumers said whiter whites and brighter brights. Not such a remarkable finding if you think about it, that people doing laundry just wanted the detergent to help get their clothes not just clean, but very clean. So brands attempted to differentiate how they got your whites whiter and brights brighter by trying to convince consumers that one additive was more effective than the other. Protein protein said one brand. Color enhancers said another. No one asked customers why they wanted their clothes clean. That little nugget wasn't revealed until many years later when a group of anthropologists hired by one of the packaged good companies revealed that all those additives weren't in fact driving behavior. They observed that when people took their washing out of the dryer, no one held it up to the light to see how white it was or compared it to the items to see how bright it was. The first thing people did when they pulled their laundry out of the dryer was to smell it. This was an amazing discovery. Feeling clean was more important to people than being clean. That's what detergent is supposed to do. But having their clothes smell fresh and clean mattered much more than the nuanced differences between which detergent actually made clothes measurably cleaner. That is a false assumption, swayed an entire industry to follow the wrong direction is not unique to detergents. Cell phone companies believed people wanted more options and buttons until Apple introduced its iPhone with fewer options and only one button. The German automakers believed that engineering alone mattered to American car buyers. They were stunned and perplexed when they learned that a great engineering wasn't enough. One by one, the German luxury car makers begrudgingly added cup holders to their fine automobiles. It was a feature that mattered a great deal to commuter-minded Americans, but was rarely mentioned in any research about what factors influence purchase decisions. I'm not for a moment proposing that cup holders make people loyal to BMWs. All I'm proposing is that even for rationally minded car buyers, there is more to decision making than meets the eye. Literally. The power of the limbic brain is astounding. It not only controls our gut decisions, but it can influence us to do things that seem illogical or irrational. Leaving the safety of home to explore faraway places, crossing oceans to see what's on the other side, leaving a stable job to start a business out of your own basement with no money in the bank. Many of us look at these decisions and say, "That's stupid, you're crazy, you could lose everything, you could get yourself killed. What are you thinking?" It's not logic or facts, but our hopes and dreams, our hearts and our guts that drive us to try new things. If we were all rational, there would be no small businesses, there would be no exploration, there'd be very little innovation, and there would be no great leaders to inspire all those things. It is the undying belief in something bigger and better that drives the kind of behavior, but it can also control behavior born out of other emotions like hate or fear. Why else would someone plot to hurt someone they had never met? The amount of market research that reveals that people want to do business with the company that offers them the best quality products with the most features, the best service, and all at a good price is astounding. But consider the companies with the greatest loyalty. So sorry. They rarely have all those things. If you wanted to buy a custom Harley Davidson, you used to wait 6 months for delivery. To give them credit, they've got it down from a year. That's bad service. Apple's computers are at least 25% more expensive than a comparable PC. There's less software available for their operating system. There are fewer peripherals. The machines themselves are sometimes slower than a comparable PC. If people made only rational decisions and did all the research before making a purchase, no one would ever want to buy a Mac. But of course, people do buy Macs. And some don't just buy them. Sorry. They love them. A feeling that comes straight from the heart or the limbic brain. We all know someone who is a die-hard Mac lover. Ask them why they love their Mac. They won't tell you. Well, I see myself as someone who likes to challenge the status quo, and it's important for me to surround myself, with with the people and products and brands that improve to the outside world who that prove to the outside world who I believe I am. Biologically, that's what happened. But that decision was made in part of the brain that controls behavior. So sorry, but not language. So they will provide a rationalization. It is the user interface. It is the simplicity. It's the design. It's the high quality. They're the best computers. I'm a creative person. In reality, their purchase and decision and their loyalty are deeply personal. They don't really care about Apple. It's all about them. The same can even be said for the people who love to work at Apple. Even employees can't put it into words. In their case, their job is one of what's to their why. They too are convinced it's the quality of the products alone that is behind Apple's success. But deep inside, they all love being a part of something bigger than themselves. The most loyal Apple employees, like the most loyal Apple customers, all have a good revolution. A great raise and added benefits couldn't convince a loyal Apple employee to work for Dell. And no amount of cashback incentives and rebates could convince a loyal Mac user to switch to a PC. Many are already paying double the price. This is beyond rational. This is a belief. It's no accident that the culture at Apple is often described as a cult. It's more than just products, it's a cause to support, it's a matter of faith. Remember the Honda and the Ferrari? Products are not just symbols of what the company believes, they also serve as symbols of what the loyal buyers believe. People with Apple laptop computers, for example, love opening them up while sitting in an airport. They like that everyone knows that they're using a Mac. It's an emblem, a symbol of who they are. That glowing Apple logo speaks to something about them and how they see the world. Does anyone notice when someone pops open the lid of their HP or Dell computer? No, not even the people using the computers care. HP and Dell have a fuzzy sense of why, so their products and their brands don't symbolize anything about the users. To the Dell or HP user, the computer, no matter how fast or sleek, is not a symbol of higher purpose, cause, or belief. It's just a computer. In fact, for the longest time, the logo on the lid of a Dell computer faced the user so when they opened it, it would be upside down for everyone else. Products with a clear sense of why give people a way to tell the outside world who they are and what they believe. Remember, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. If a company does not have a clear sense of why, then it is impossible for the outside world to perceive anything more than what the company does. And when that happens, manipulations that rely on pushing price, features, service, or quality become the primary currency for differentiation. Uh, is it okay if everyone gives a summary or like a small thing about what we've read now? Hello? Does anyone have anything to say about what we've read so far?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
For reading for us. I'm good. Uh, here, what we read today, mostly it is based not the loyalty is based not only the features. Like when he's giving the example of I buying a product, like he gave the example of buying a TV. Many
Yeah.
happens because something we buy when we are not 100% sure, but somebody is going on telling you this is like these are the features, these are the things, these are the things, that is the
Yeah.
so we buy, but then later on we are not sure. We like, or it might be the neighbor's one is better than what I have bought, even though
Yeah.
I have been better, but that doubt always remains.
Mm-hmm.
So that loyalty that we have on Apple, the Apple, I don't have to think which Apple. I only have to think which phone I'm buying here, whether it is 15 or 16 or 14. I
Yeah.
think which product I should buy.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I have to only think which product I have to buy. I don't have to think what brand, because this is something I know when I'm buying Tata.
Yeah.
It is salt is Tata. Toothpaste,
Mhm.
Colgate. So this is what that loyalty matters, and it is very truly said. Why it should be very clear why the company is doing it. Where he gave the example of the soap detergent, it
Mm-hmm.
was the first company to come out with the jasmine smell.
Okay.
The later the companies followed, Tide and all, Wheel and all other companies followed that. First, it
Mm.
was only Nirma. Everybody, if you see your washing powder, is only Nirma. But
Yeah.
then later on, when Ariel came, so Ariel brought that smelling factor.
Mm-hmm.
And after reading this, I recollected, yes, that it was the first company to introduce that jasmine uh,
Yeah.
in their detergent. And
Uh-huh.
because my daughter, she has a habit of smelling her clothes, like perfumes also she'll buy, she keep on smelling. So
Yeah.
one thing that it clicked, that yes, the purpose is like brighter bright and whiter white. So all the companies were doing.
Yeah.
Smell factor only Ariel bought. So these are the
Yeah.
little things that the companies think, and they come out with excellent good products. Like Ariel
Mm-hmm.
is the most expensive detergent if we see, but
Okay.
people love buying it because of the smell. That is very important.
Yeah. And if, for example, like a product resonates with like a why of a person, if it also builds like trust in them. So they continue just relying on that product.
Very good. Very good.
Mm. Yeah. Anything else?
No, nothing. This is what I felt like sharing.
Yeah. Nikhil, do you have anything to say?
No, ma'am.
Okay, then I think we can end the session.
Good
Yeah.
night. Thank you so much for
Good
it.
night. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.